Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 2030 tool reporting for small and medium-sized firms. My name is Melissa Wackerly. I am the Director of Sustainable Practice and Knowledge here at the American Institute of Architects. We're joined by Andrea Love and Nathan Kipnis. Andrea at Payette University is the Director of Building Science, where she leads the firm's sustainability efforts, integrates performance analysis into the design process, and leads internal research projects. She's a recipient of the AIA 2012 Upjohn Research Grant, where she has led a research project focusing on thermal bridging. She has focused her academic and professional career on sustainable design and improving building performance. She's also a lecturer at MIT in the Department of Architecture's Building Technology Group, where she teaches a class on building envelope performance. She currently serves on the Board of Directors for the USGBC Massachusetts chapter and on the National USGBC Steering Chapter Committee and on Education Steering Committee, and she is on the advisory group for AIA's Committee on the Environment at the national level. Nathan Kipnis is the principal of Kipnis Architecture and Planning, recognized as one of Chicago's premier and sustainable architectural practices. Nathan received his Master's of Architecture with an emphasis in energy conscious design from Arizona State University in 1985. His undergraduate degree is a Bachelor of Environmental Design from the University of Chicago at Boulder. Recent highlights of his firm's work include a modern net zero home in Chicago, the first LEED Platinum home on the exclusive North Shore of Chicago, and the design of an eco-campus in West Virginia. He is a Chicago Magazine Green Award recipient and has been honored with numerous awards for both new and historic renovation work. The Sturgeon Bay Green Vacation was designated Home of the Decade by Natural Home Magazine. Mr. Kipnis also lectures extensively on topics related to green architectural design, historically derived climatically based architectural design, and renewable energy. He's been an invited speaker at numerous venues, including being one of the keynote speakers at Mother Earth News Fair and at Greenbuild, Northwestern University, Illinois Institute of Chicago, the Chicago AIA, ArchaWorks, the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, and the Center for Green Technology in Chicago. So Nathan and Andrea, take it away.
Well, what we want to do today is go over the differences in the reporting tool from last year to this year, and there's been a number of changes, and these changes have been done to primarily gather more information on the individual projects. And the reporting tool, as it's been in the past, is broken into a section for commercial and a section for residential. And what that allows is a little more accurate inputting for each of them. There's many things in the commercial that, as a small residential architect, we might not want to deal with. So, I mean, I can start going through and laying it out. When we look at the worksheet, the things that have changed, one of them right off the bat is what design phase the project's in. So only projects that are in the design phase are to be reported. So now you can pick out, you can go into the menu and tell what area you're in, the year that it's going to be anticipated, completed, and then target certification, which is another new component. The other items here are all similar or all the same. And then we get to which projects, as far as modeling, are they currently modeled or will they be modeled in the future? So you can start selecting that. These numbers are the same. The predicted target, the predicted EUI number goes in here. The regional site average EUI, that's a number that is available on the 2030 Challenge website. So it's a real good thing to go look at that, because they'll have Midwest, East, West, etc., and it much more gives you better data for what you should be looking at. So we get, because we're in the Midwest and we have cold winters, obviously, we get a higher EUI number available, which helps our designs out. And then it talks about the architectural team involved, or are you having a modeling consultant or an engineer do the modeling, and then what kind of tool you're using. So we use a program called HEED, which is not on here. That's a free program available from UCLA. Actually kind of a nice program, but a lot of them are listed here, and just input what you've got. Time spent on the modeling is inputted right there, and that's a new one. The calculated and targeted calculated or targeted window-to-wall ratio is new, and the light density is one, I believe, from last year. If you don't have an EUI that you can calculate, it will give you the ability to put in that design energy code. That's always been available. I just want to reiterate, if you don't have it developed with an EUI number, just put in the code. There's no green police that's going to come after you if you're not, getting a super high number. Just enter it in so it's recorded. I don't have any of the interior projects only on my spreadsheet here, but that's a much more straightforward input, and that, I believe, is the same as it was last time. Another one that was here last time was the water input, which is also an optional one, and so I've inputted in this example a number of combinations. And then I'll just go through the other ones real quick. The source and emissions is a optional spreadsheet. It's looking at the electricity produced off-site and on-site if you're doing any, and then in our case we have natural gas in Chicago, so we inputted that here. And then we get to probably the biggest change, which is in the detailed residential. It's a very long component of the spreadsheet. All of this is new, and this is being done to coordinate with the DOE. They are requesting this information just to analyze it, just to record it. Basically, this is the stuff that you would input into your modeling program anyway. So it's not that difficult to figure out what to put in. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can just see this is very straightforward stuff. Some of it is being tweaked for upcoming for next year, but it is pretty broad-based. It goes into a lot of detail, goes into the R values, the way the foundation is insulated, different window types, etc. And then it gets into kind of what is in the building. Washing machines, number of refrigerators, are you using any solar thermal for any components, and the type of heating system, etc. So much, much more detailed now. And there's also that available in commercial. I'm not going to talk about that. And then once you get all of that input in, there is the typical report to the AIA, which is listed or shown here, the progress report, which you can input the different years that you've previously done, and you can see trends starting to show up. And then the last one is the source and emissions report. So I think overall it's a pretty good, it's not anything surprising. It's everything that you would normally be doing to get the EUI number. It's just nice to see it in this format.
Yeah, and I would just add, that's a great overview, Nate. I would just add that the detailed tab may seem intimidating, but it's a lot of information you would typically have for a project, and that it's optional for that stuff. The kind of first tab that Nate went through is the stuff that we really need for all projects. But the detailed tab we'd like to have is for as many projects as possible, but if there's one project where you don't necessarily have all that information, we're just trying to collect as much of it as possible because the DOE is trying to use this as part of their database to really understand what factors are influencing energy performance as part of the AIA partnership with them. And the goal is then to move this next year into an online tool, so hopefully it'll be even more streamlined and easy in the future.
So let me talk a little bit about this new online tool. That's really the reasoning behind all of these new tabs and all of this new information. And this new data is actually going to be fed into an online tool that will be released next year. It's the culmination of an effort between the AIA and the Department of Energy to streamline the reporting process and to be able to do more with the data that we have so that the AIA can show more clearly the progress towards the 2030 commitment benchmarks, as well as providing more value to reporting firms so that firms can go in and see how their buildings are compared to similar buildings regionally or nationally or by category. So if you are working on a K through 12 school, how is that K through 12 school compared to others in your region or others nationally? It'll do all this anonymously so that you can see your building and your building's data when you're in the firm view, but all you see is an aggregate of the rest of the data. So it's going to be a great tool for designers to go through and see how they're doing and be able to tout that they're performing as they had anticipated with regard to the 2030 commitment.
I can also just quickly show that on the 2030 challenge, that, like I mentioned, the U.S. residential regional averages, this is that sheet that gives you 4 different areas of the country and for 5 different types of homes, and it gives the regional EUI number and then what that target is at 50%, 60, 70, 80, 90%. So this is really helpful to see, and it's good to go ahead and input into the spreadsheet. And you know, just saying just how our firm works, when we do the modeling, it's taking us about 2 to 2.5 hours per project. And the earlier we can do that, obviously, the more benefit we get. And we might check it later towards the end, but it's not an onerous thing to do it at all. And it's you know, it's been very helpful. It starts to give you some rationale for different design moves. So, oh, we just added windows here. Look what that just did to our EUI. We now changed the orientation a little bit. What did that do to the EUI? So getting this, especially with all the detailed information, it's just going to help get a better understanding of what design does for that EUI number. And I guess I should also say we have about 8 projects a year that end up on the list, and maybe one of them does the lighting one. So it's mainly what you're seeing with the building equipment and the building analysis.
So Nathan and Andrea, do you want to go ahead and open it up to questions from the group, or?
Sure.
Yeah. Do we have any questions that have come in? There are no questions yet. How about, Nathan, you talk about some of the specific concerns for small and medium-sized firms as far as challenges maybe entering the data or collecting the data? Have you run into any obstacles?
Well, it's a good question. I think, you know, we've talked at the 2030 group about this, about how large firms can do this very easily because they have overhead, they have people to do it, they have engineers. Small firms are able to do it when the person in the office is just committed to doing it. It's the medium-sized firms that are a little tricky because they need to justify it economically and they don't necessarily have the number of people and engineers available. But the good thing about a small firm doing this is, in my case, we do our own analysis. So we're actually seeing, you know, like I said, aha, we go ahead and change this insulation, look what it just did. And I think in a large firm, the disadvantages might be that an engineer does it and then they just get the data and they don't necessarily see the kind of going back and forth that modeling gives you and also this reporting tool gives you. I mean, it's such a small amount of time that we don't even, you know, make a big deal to our clients about it. We only use that one program, so it's hard for me to, you know, elaborate on if it's more difficult with other programs. But if it took, you know, 15 hours to do it, that might be a situation where you need to potentially, you know, reflect that in your fee, maybe. It's just such a small thing that we don't even worry about it. It's great to show the clients. They all love seeing it, and I think they get a much better understanding of what our design input is into the ramification of that EUI number, and most of our clients want that. That's just the kind of firm we have, and I think most of the people on the line would probably agree with that.
Yeah, the other benefit I would add that we've seen from our projects is that it gives us ability to kind of track how our work is doing, and as a benchmark for future projects, as well as to see if we're improving over time. And so there's the nice ability to start to be able to compare different projects and strategies, kind of across both years, as well as different ones. And so the ability to kind of look at your work a little more holistically in terms of performance has been really helpful for us.
And year to year to try and see how you're doing. And I can't stress it enough. There is not any penalty for not making the number. There's very few projects that make it. It's why it's called the challenge and the commitment. I mean, it's very hard to do this, but the idea is to keep building every year and keep understanding and gain knowledge from your previous projects. And I know one of the goals of the 2030 group in general is to put out information, some case studies of how things have been done, what's worked, in certain climates and in certain regions. And here in Chicago, we did that. We had a group of about 8 of us present and show how it worked for commercial project, industrial, institutional, residential, and start to see what's working and what's working economically. It is very difficult to hit that target, but you do gain that every year and you keep moving up. That's one of the things about that progress report, is to be able to see this thing starting to climb up and work its way up to that number. And some firms are doing really well, and others are getting the hang of it, and there's no penalty to that.
Yeah.
So I would like to reiterate, too, that any data that you're providing on these detail tabs will be pre-populated into your firm's online portal for the online reporting tool that's going to be out next year. So any data that you have is going to make a more robust page for you for that point of comparison as you move forward with all your 2030 reporting.
I just put up the commercial tab just to kind of go through it. Like I said, we're not typically doing this, but this is a lot more info than on the residential one, but it's got the ability to give the building shape and the length, width, and the orientation, and all these other things related to that. And then it goes into the envelope, so even building type, roof type, and various exterior walls. And all these are in pull down, so it's really, really simple. And if you don't know what it should be, just skip it. And if there's multiple ones, just put the predominant one in. It's not meant to trip you up on this. And it goes into then the heating systems, controls, and natural ventilation. And then a little bit more detail, so a lot of stuff on the windows and the heating and the cooling equipment. There's also the ability for those that work in foreign countries, that there's, if I can find that, of what country it's in, which is it'd be fun to work in some of these. We don't. It also, if you have multiple office locations, you can do that as well. You can input it here. And then the last tab is a mixed use calculator. So if you have 30% residential and 70% commercial in a building, you can then put that in and it'll give you a averaged EUI number.
Nate and Andrea, we have a question from the group. The question is the firm data that will be on the online portal public information? And the answer to that is no. The only person who will be able to see the project by project detailed information, including the project name and the specific project address and things like that. That's going to be only the firm. So the AIA will not be able to see that. The DOE will not be able to see that. Only the firm, and other firms won't be able to see that. The only ones who will be able to see project detail is going to be the firms who reported. And Nate was just talking about also the international project work. And so we have a couple of tools that are available on the AIA 2030 resource page that you can download for that, that compare the region that you're working in with local U.S. zip codes. And then where those don't necessarily relate directly, there's another spreadsheet tool that will help you calculate that.
Yeah.
And I know, and I hope I can find it, the under somewhere there's something that talks about the electricity, the source energy production in different areas. And so there's been an effort to try and work that out. And of course, I'm not going to find it right this second. Yeah, I don't think it's in here. But I know there's been some talk about that.
I think it's on the reference tab, or maybe a separate document. I don't recall.
Oh yeah, right. Here it is.
Yes, but it's under it's on the reference tab over on the side. Is
right,
the emissions factor for each country. And then the zip code is used if you were using Energy Star to benchmark. Say you had a school, and you were trying to benchmark it against other schools. They give you equivalent zip codes in terms of the climate, so that you know what climate is similar in the U.S. that you can benchmark using Energy Star, which only has U.S. projects.
So we have another question. I'm sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I see this other question. So about the commercial schools. Is that so? If you want to look at that, that's the EUI for. These are all the U.S. national average EUIs for these various things. So education is right up there. I don't know if that's a commercial / schools, but if it was if it was a combined thing, then you'd use the mixed use calculator. But there's not that I know of a regional one for that, but there might be. So you can look in different places. The 2030 challenge is a good place to start.
Yeah, so for a lot of them, the average that's listed for the EUI is the national average, but then there's a number of types, not all of them, but there's a number that you can get more local data based on your climate zone in Energy Star. It doesn't have the whole list, and so there's only certain ones, but like office and kind of K through 12 education, some healthcare. Those are the ones I recall off the top of my head, but those are available in Energy Star, and so you can get a more detailed, kind of fine-tuned national average for your climate, and given a few other basic parameters for the project than the national average, if you so choose.
So the next question is, buildings finished before 2014 should not be included in the reporting. This report is specifically for any project that was in the design phase during the year 2013. So any phase of design up to construction administration is going to be included in the report.
There's a very good FAQ document, one of the tabs, and I think it has 29, 30 different question and answers. So that's the very first question. And basically, if you're doing the design that year, it's included.
We have another question that came in. What if you are working in another country? How to get more detailed data? U.S. data is shown very fine-grained. I noticed there international emission factors but no other data.
Yeah, so if you're working in another country, you use the U.S. averages, which is obviously not a great method, but that's because, as the person asking the question pointed out, there really isn't great data for different project types in other countries. And so you can use the U.S. data, and then if it is something where you can look at a more fine detail based on climate, like in Energy Star, you can use the zip code in the document that's on the AIA website, as Melissa mentioned.
The next question is also, what is your country metric? Could you incorporate a conversion feature in the template? So are you talking, right now PEUI is going to be the same for any kind of imperial versus metric system. That's what the question is getting at. But where it asks for square foot versus square meter, we don't have that conversion factor in the template right now, and the template at this point is not going to be altered again because we're moving next year to the online tool. So I'm sorry if we don't have that that metric to imperial conversion in there already.
Yeah, so we do work internationally, and a lot of times the EUI in foreign projects is, watts per square meter, but we just do that math to convert it to KB2 per square foot to input into the tool.
It'd be a good thing to try and get in for the following year. It shouldn't be that difficult. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, so far that's all the questions that have come in. Nate and Andrea, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to provide?
Well, I guess I would say, we've been doing it since it started. I don't have anything negative to say about it. It's been a real helpful tool, and it really puts it in perspective, the challenge that we have. But I think this is the way to really get an understanding of what needs to be done. And as another aside, as a small firm, we have 4 people. We get to be included in a nice big list of some very well-known firms, and it's a good marketing thing for us. It just helps in many, many ways. I really don't think there's anything negative about it, and the time commitment is really not significant at all. I mean, we've just found that has never been the case, so I really recommend it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We've had a very pleasant experience with it so far. We've been doing it now for 3 years, and have found it to be a very helpful process. We're a much bigger firm, so it's a bit more of an effort to try to get all the information, but we found that it's very helpful once we have it, and it has come in handy both as a marketing tool as well as kind of in our design process and just informing the literacy of the firm on energy usage and our building performance. I think it's been a great thing to be a part of.
So just as a recap, I wanted to let everybody know that there are resources available on the AIA 2030 Commitment website. If you haven't yet downloaded the new tool, there's a big red button that you can click to download. When you're ready to submit your report, please email the entire spreadsheet with the project data removed as far as the project name, and you can submit that to 2030commitment@aia.org by email. So again, our due date is March 31st, 2014, and we're looking for the entire spreadsheet to be emailed to 2030commitment@aia.org.
Just the names removed, the project
Just the names removed, yes. And that goes back to that question on what data is public, and we don't want to have any of the specific project names and that kind of information, so that we can ensure that all of the information is remaining confidential. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, and we appreciate your time, and we appreciate your commitment to the 2030 goals and to sustainable practice in general. Thank you all for your time, and enjoy your weekend.